Here's a truth bomb for you. Most families aren't going broke because they're spending too much at the store. They're losing money because the stuff they bring home ends up rotting in the fridge or sitting forgotten in the pantry until it's way past its prime. We're talking hundreds of dollars a year, just vanishing into the garbage can. So I put together a ranked list of the 25 absolute best foods you should be tossing into your cart every single week. I looked at everything: how much nutrition you're actually getting, what it costs per serving, how long it sticks around before going bad, and how many different meals you can squeeze out of it. And heads up, number 4 on this list is something you almost certainly grabbed off the shelf this morning. But there's a very good chance you picked up the wrong one. Let's dive right in. Number 25, apple cider vinegar. Okay, starting us off with something you might not expect on a grocery essentials list, but hear me out. A single bottle of quality apple cider vinegar runs you maybe $4 or $5, and that bottle is going to hang around your kitchen for months doing all kinds of heavy lifting. You can splash it into homemade salad dressings, use it to brine chicken, add a tablespoon to soups and stews for a little brightness, or mix it into a quick pickling liquid for onions and cucumbers. Some folks swear by a morning shot diluted in water, and while the science on that is still evolving, there's decent evidence it may help with blood sugar regulation after meals. The real magic here is shelf life. This stuff basically doesn't go bad. It just sits in your pantry, ready whenever you need it. And because a little goes a long way, you're looking at pennies per use. For something that versatile and that durable, it's an absolute steal. Look for the kind that says "with the mother" on the label. That's the unfiltered version with all the good stuff still floating around in it. Number 24, extra virgin olive oil. Most folks stroll through the cooking oil section and automatically reach for whatever bottle has the lowest sticker price. $3 or $4 versus 12 or 14? Seems like a no-brainer, right? But here's what that quick math misses entirely. Those two bottles aren't doing the same thing for you. A solid bottle of extra virgin olive oil steps in and handles the job of your everyday cooking oil, your store-bought salad dressing, and pretty much any bottled marinade collecting dust in your fridge door. You can cook with it, drizzle it over roasted veggies, whisk it together with a squeeze of lemon and a crushed clove of garlic for an instant vinaigrette, or rub it into meat before grilling. That's potentially 4 different products replaced by a single bottle. When you think of it that way, the higher price tag starts looking like a bargain. There's a health angle too. Olive oil contains something called oleocanthal, which researchers have studied pretty extensively for its anti-inflammatory effects. A well-known clinical trial showed that people following a Mediterranean-style diet with plenty of extra virgin olive oil saw roughly a 30% reduction in serious heart-related events. That's significant. A litre gives you around 67 tablespoons of the stuff. At about $14 a bottle, you're paying roughly 20 cents every time you use it. Keep it sealed tight, store it away from your stove and any direct light, and it'll treat you well for a long time. The cheapest option on the shelf isn't always the smartest purchase. The smartest purchase is the one pulling double and triple duty in your kitchen. Number 23, onions. All right, picture this. It's a Friday evening. You peek into the fridge and there's some leftover chicken from Tuesday, a random bell pepper that's seen better days, and a container of rice you almost forgot about. None of that looks like dinner. That's the exact moment most people surrender and open a delivery app. But toss a sliced onion into a hot skillet and everything changes. When you let onions cook low and slow, their natural sugars start to caramelize, and they develop this deep, rich, savory flavor that expensive bottled sauces spend a dozen ingredients trying to imitate. A $3 bag of basic yellow onions becomes the backbone of more meals than you can count. Toss them into soups, pile them into stir-fries, scramble them with eggs, fold them into a pot of simmering rice, braise them alongside a cheap cut of meat, or heap them onto pasta. Throw a generous handful next to a modest portion of protein, and suddenly the plate looks fuller, tastes better, and costs way less. And nobody at the table feels like they're getting a smaller meal. Quick storage tip for you. Keep your onions in a cool, dark spot with decent airflow. Don't seal them inside plastic bags, and definitely keep them away from potatoes. Those two don't get along. They release gases and moisture that speed up spoilage in both directions. Give them their own space, and they'll last you weeks. Number 22. Garlic. Here's something that might change the way you cook forever. You grab a clove of garlic, mince it up, and drop it straight into a screaming hot pan. That incredible aroma fills the kitchen, and you think, perfect, that's doing its thing. Not quite. Here's what's actually happening at a molecular level. Raw garlic contains two separate chemical compounds that are stored in different parts of the clove. When you crush or chop it, those compounds finally meet and start producing something called allicin, a substance that researchers have studied for potential benefits to circulation, blood pressure, and immune health. But here's the catch. That chemical reaction needs about 10 minutes to really get going. If you throw freshly chopped garlic directly into a hot pan, the heat kills off the enzyme responsible before it can finish its job. Your garlic smells great, but a huge chunk of the beneficial compounds never actually formed. The fix couldn't be simpler. Chop your garlic first, then set it on the cutting board. Go prep your other ingredients. Season the meat, chop the vegetables, get your oil heating. Come back to the garlic 10 minutes later. That's literally all it takes. Generations of home cooks across dozens of cultures have done this instinctively, not because they understood biochemistry, but because their grandmothers taught them. Science just recently figured out why it works. A whole bulb costs maybe 40 or 50 cents and gives you around 10 cloves. A few pennies apiece, delivering more genuine health value percent than most of those overpriced supplement bottles at the pharmacy. Sometimes the smartest move in the kitchen isn't buying something new. It's just being a little more patient with what you've already got. Hey, real quick, if you're finding any of this helpful so far, do me a huge favor and smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me which food surprised you the most, and if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this list. Alright, let's keep rolling. Number 21. Eggs. There's a reason eggs land on virtually every serious nutrition ranking out there, and it goes way beyond the price. Though honestly, the price alone is hard to argue with. What makes eggs truly special is just how much complete nutrition they pack into one tiny little package. 2 eggs hand you a full serving of complete protein, meaning all 9 essential amino acids that your body cannot manufacture on its own. On top of that, you're getting vitamin B12, vitamin D, selenium, and a nutrient called choline that most people have never even heard of. And that's a real problem, because choline is critically important. It plays a major role in memory, liver function, and keeping your nervous system running smoothly. Nutrition surveys consistently show that something like 90% of adults in the US aren't getting enough of it on a daily basis. Just 2 eggs cover a substantial portion of what you need, in a form your body actually knows how to absorb and put to work. Finding another food that delivers complete protein and choline together in a bioavailable package at this price point? Good luck. It's nearly impossible. And the versatility is off the charts. Boil them for meal prep, scramble them in 3 minutes on a busy morning, fold them into fried rice, lay a fried egg over roasted vegetables, pair them with toast or a bowl of oatmeal. Eggs can be the main attraction or the quiet supporting player that makes everything else on the plate feel more satisfying. Number 20. Peanut butter. Let's talk about those nights when everything has gone sideways. Maybe you had a brutal week at work. Maybe the grocery run just didn't happen. Maybe you open the fridge and there is genuinely nothing in there that resembles a meal. Peanut butter is your safety net for exactly these moments. About 15 cents per serving. Around 8 grams of protein. Healthy fats that keep your energy steady for hours instead of the quick spike and crash you get from carb-heavy snacks. 0 cooking required. Doesn't need to be refrigerated right away after opening. 0 prep work. Spread it on a couple of crackers, pair it with a sliced apple or slap it on a piece of bread, and you've got something genuinely satisfying that'll carry you through. There's a reason peanut butter shows up on every emergency preparedness checklist ever written. But which jar you pick matters a lot. Plenty of the budget-friendly options are loaded with added sugar, partially hydrogenated oils, and artificial flavoring ingredients that water down the nutritional value and do absolutely nothing good for your body. Flip the jar over and read the ingredients. If you see anything beyond peanuts and maybe a pinch of salt, put it back. 2 ingredients. That's your jar. Number 19, Greek yogurt. Here's one I wanted to add because it's a powerhouse that doesn't get the credit it deserves in the budget conversation. A tub of plain Greek yogurt typically runs a few dollars and packs a serious protein punch. We're talking around 15 to 20 grams per serving, roughly double what regular yogurt offers. Beyond protein, you're getting probiotics, live beneficial bacteria that support gut health and digestion. Your gut microbiome influences everything from immune function to mood, and feeding it well is one of the simplest health investments you can make. Plain Greek yogurt also moonlights as a surprisingly good substitute for sour cream, mayonnaise, and even cream cheese in a pinch. Use it as a base for dressings, dollop it onto tacos, mix it into smoothies, or stir in some honey and frozen berries for a quick dessert. Buy the plain, unsweetened tubs. The flavored cups are loaded with added sugar and cost more per ounce. You can always add your own fruit, a drizzle of honey, or a sprinkle of granola. More nutrition, less sugar, lower cost. That's a win across the board. Number 18, chicken thighs. Spend a few minutes watching people at the meat counter and you'll notice the same pattern over and over. Nearly everyone reaches straight for the chicken breast. It's leaner, it's healthier. That's the reputation anyway. Most shoppers don't give it a second thought. But if your goal is eating well without emptying your wallet, the better deal is sitting right next to those breasts. Chicken thighs generally cost about half as much per pound. And the savings are only the beginning. Thighs have more connective tissue and a bit more natural fat, which means they stay tender and juicy even if your timing isn't perfect. Leave a chicken breast in the pan 2 minutes too long and you're chewing leather. Thighs absorb that margin of error and still come out beautifully. Now, here's the part that separates budget-savvy cooks from everyone else: the bones. After dinner, most people toss them without thinking. Don't do that. Save them. Toss them into a pot with an onion, a carrot, and a few peppercorns. Let it all simmer for a couple of hours. And what you pull out is a gorgeous, rich, homemade broth. That broth becomes the foundation for tomorrow's soup, a pot of stew later in the week, or the liquid you use to cook your next batch of rice. 1 purchase, 2 meals, sometimes 3. The families that consistently spend less on groceries aren't necessarily buying different foods. They're just thinking differently about what each purchase can become. Quick pause. If you're enjoying this, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. It genuinely helps more than you'd think, and it tells me you want more content like this. Okay, back to the list. Number 17, canned tuna. A regular can of tuna, about $1.50, roughly 25 grams of protein. Try finding that ratio anywhere else in the grocery store. It's incredibly tough to beat. Tuna is also naturally rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which have been extensively studied for their role in supporting cardiovascular and cognitive health. For adults over 50 especially, it's one of the most accessible and affordable ways to get these important nutrients into your diet consistently. And the convenience factor is through the roof. Nothing to defrost. Nothing to slice or season. Nothing to stand over a stove watching. Crack the can open, combine it with whatever you've got on hand. Some cooked pasta, a scoop of rice, a simple salad, or just a slice of bread. And a complete meal appears in minutes. On those evenings when the very idea of cooking feels exhausting, that kind of simplicity is what keeps families from burning another $20 or $30 on takeout. Water-packed or olive oil-packed, either works. Go with whatever you prefer. Just give the can a quick once-over for dents or damage and check the date. A can of tuna isn't just emergency food hiding in the back of your cabinet. It's a high-protein meal sitting patiently on the shelf, ready to rescue you on the nights when nothing else comes together. Number 16, frozen vegetables. Here's a cycle that plays out in kitchens everywhere, week after week. Somebody heads to the grocery store feeling motivated. They load up the cart with beautiful fresh produce, kale, broccoli, crisp salad greens. They bring it all home, tuck it into the crisper drawer, and make big plans for healthy dinners all week. By Thursday, half of it is wilting. By Sunday, it's in the trash. Good intentions, real money, straight into the garbage. This is exactly why a growing number of nutrition experts have stopped automatically insisting that fresh produce is always the better choice. Vegetables headed for the frozen aisle are typically flash frozen within hours of being picked, right at the moment when their nutritional content is highest. Meanwhile, the fresh vegetables sitting under the grocery store lights may have spent days traveling through distribution networks, sitting in warehouses, and slowly losing nutritional value the entire time. Frozen veggies also nearly eliminate the waste problem. You pour out what you need, seal up the bag, and put it back in the freezer. Nothing wilts. Nothing turns to mush in the back of your fridge. Nothing gets thrown away. Stop judging vegetables by how pretty they look in the produce section. Start judging them by how much actual nutrition makes it to your plate, and whether you'll realistically use them before they go bad. Number 15. Sweet potatoes. I wanted to add this one because sweet potatoes are an incredible value that flies under the radar. They're cheap, usually well under $2 a pound, and they're loaded with beta-carotene, fiber, and vitamins A and C. One medium sweet potato, baked with the skin on, makes a filling side dish or even a light meal on its own when you top it with a little butter, a pinch of cinnamon, or some black beans and salsa. They roast beautifully, mash up smooth and creamy, and add natural sweetness to soups and stews without any added sugar. Storage is a breeze too. Keep them in a cool, dark, well-ventilated spot, not the refrigerator, and they'll stay good for several weeks. They're one of those ingredients that bridge the gap between healthy and comfort food without breaking the bank, and they deserve a permanent spot in your rotation. Number 14. Cabbage. Ask anyone who grew up in a household where every dollar was carefully accounted for which vegetable was always somewhere in the kitchen. The answer, more often than not, comes without hesitation: cabbage. A whole head of cabbage, stored in a cool spot, stays perfectly usable for up to 2 months. 2 months. Leafy greens are wilting within days. Most other vegetables start going soft inside a week or two. Cabbage just sits there patiently, waiting for you to come along and put it to work. Slice off what you need for a stir fry, shred some into a soup, braise it alongside sausage, or chop it raw into a crunchy slaw. It stretches modest portions of protein into bigger, more satisfying plates and adds genuine volume to meals without tacking on any meaningful cost. Real value in a kitchen isn't always about what makes the biggest impression when you're loading the cart. Sometimes it's simply about what's still sitting there, fresh and ready, when you need it on a random Wednesday without forcing another trip to the store. Number 13. Carrots. If someone told you to pick just one vegetable to keep in your kitchen for a full week and get the absolute most mileage out of it, most seasoned home cooks wouldn't reach for anything trendy. They'd grab a bag of carrots without blinking. Raw, they're a perfect grab-and-go snack. Shredded, they add sweetness and crunch to salads. Simmered low and slow, they become part of the flavor foundation for soups and stews. Roasted with a little oil, salt, and maybe a sprinkle of cumin, they're a gorgeous side dish all on their own. Tossed into a stir fry alongside some protein, they bring color, texture, and nutrition to any bowl. One single bag shows up across 5 or 6 different meals throughout the week without any of those meals feeling like a repeat. That's remarkable versatility. The nutrition backs it up too. That signature orange color comes from beta-carotene, which your body converts into vitamin A as needed. This supports healthy eyesight, immune defense, and skin health. And carrots are one of the cheapest ways to make sure you're getting enough of it consistently. They keep well when stored whole and dry in the fridge. No rush to use them immediately. No frantic meal planning around them before they turn. Just reliable, flexible, affordable nutrition that quietly shows up wherever you need it. All right, friends, we're deep into the list now, and the best stuff is still coming. If you're getting value from this, take 1 second to hit that like button. It really does help push this video out to more people. And hey, drop a comment below telling me which of these foods you're planning to grab on your next grocery run. Let's keep going. Number 12. Canned tomatoes. Here's a case where the conventional wisdom gets it backwards. For most foods, fresh beats canned on nutrition, That's generally true. But canned tomatoes are one of the well-documented exceptions to that rule. The key player here is lycopene, the antioxidant responsible for that deep red color in tomatoes. Here's the interesting part. Lycopene becomes significantly easier for your body to absorb after the tomato has been exposed to heat. The canning process delivers exactly that kind of heat treatment. Research suggests that the bioavailability of lycopene can jump by roughly 3 to 4 times after cooking compared to raw. So in this particular respect, the canned version may actually deliver more usable nutrition than what you'd get from a fresh tomato off the vine. Beyond the science, canned tomatoes give you a consistency that fresh ones simply can't match. They don't over-ripen on your counter before you get around to using them. Pop one open on a busy Tuesday night, and you've got an instant base for pasta sauce, a pot of chili, braised meat, or a warming bowl of soup. Ready in minutes, tasting great regardless of what season it is. When fresh tomato prices spike during winter months, or the ones at the store look pale and sad, a can in your pantry means your cooking never has to suffer. Stock up when they're on sale. They last for ages. Number 11. Potatoes, poor potatoes. They're usually the first thing yanked out of the shopping cart whenever someone decides to clean up their diet. Too many carbs, too fattening. Better to just skip them entirely. But that line of thinking confuses two completely different things. The potato itself was never the villain. What people did to the potato was the problem. A deep-fried potato drenched in oil has almost nothing in common nutritionally with a baked or boiled potato, eaten with its skin still on. The preparation method completely transforms the food. And when you prepare potatoes simply, they rank among the most filling foods ever formally studied. They score near the very top of satiety indexes, meaning they reduce hunger and curb the urge to snack more effectively than the vast majority of processed alternatives out there. One medium potato also delivers around 620 milligrams of potassium. That's actually more than a banana. Potassium supports proper muscle and nerve function and plays a meaningful role in maintaining healthy blood pressure when it's part of an overall balanced diet. Bake them, boil them, mash them, cube them into soups, or roast them with herbs. They store easily, cost almost nothing per serving, and fill you up like few other foods can. The potato was never your enemy. What you do with it makes all the difference. Number 10. Milk. When you're young, bone health doesn't exactly feel like something that belongs on your grocery list. It seems like a problem for later, something a doctor might bring up decades down the road. But here's the piece that's worth really sitting with. Bone density isn't something you can just build when you're older and it becomes urgent. It's constructed gradually, over many years, through the small, everyday choices you're making right now. By the time a healthcare provider flags it as a concern, a significant portion of your window for building strong bones has already passed. Roughly 54 million Americans currently have low bone density or face elevated risk for osteoporosis. That number reflects the accumulation of ordinary decisions, made or skipped, at ordinary meals across ordinary years. Milk brings three things to the table that work together in a way most supplements simply can't replicate. Calcium for building bone structure. Vitamin D to help your body actually absorb that calcium effectively. And high-quality protein to maintain the muscle mass that protects your bones as you age. These three nutrients are more powerful in combination than any one of them working alone. Milk also slides naturally into oatmeal, smoothies, coffee, soups, and sauces, which means you're more likely to use up the whole carton before it expires instead of pouring the last third down the sink. Tiny habits, repeated consistently over years and decades, are how lasting health outcomes are actually built. Don't underestimate a daily glass of milk. Number 9. Butter. For roughly 3 decades, butter was treated like a dietary villain. Saturated fat. Those two words were enough for millions of households to ditch it in favor of processed margarine spreads that turned out, in many cases, to be considerably worse for you. The science on this has been quietly shifting for a while now. Real butter, consumed in sensible amounts, isn't the monster it was made out to be. One of butter's genuine contributions is vitamin K2, a nutrient that helps guide calcium toward your bones and teeth, instead of letting it accumulate in your artery walls. K2 is seriously underrepresented in the typical Western diet, and butter happens to be one of the few common everyday foods that contains it in meaningful quantities. Here's a practical tip. Butter freezes beautifully. Buy it when it's on sale, stock your freezer, and the quality holds for months. It's a simple strategy that lets you pay less for something you're already purchasing regularly. Choose real butter over processed spreads. Judge it based on what the current body of evidence actually demonstrates, not based on a scary headline from 1995. Your kitchen and your body will both be better for it. We're getting close to the top now, and honestly, these next ones are where it really gets good. If you've made it this far, you're clearly serious about making smarter choices at the store. Show some love. Like, comment, subscribe, and let's finish this thing strong. Number 8. Whole wheat pasta. It's a weeknight. You dragged yourself through a long day. The fridge is looking pretty bare. The thought of doing any real cooking makes you want to collapse on the couch. Here's your move. Grab a box of whole wheat pasta, a can of tomatoes, a couple cloves of garlic, and a splash of olive oil. Boil, simmer, toss. Done. A hot, complete dinner on the table in 20 minutes. That's not a compromise meal. That's a genuinely good dinner. One box runs about 40 cents per serving and comfortably feeds a family of 4 when you pair it with some vegetables, a handful of beans, or a small amount of whatever protein you've got around. It stretches pricier ingredients without making the plate feel skimpy. And it stores in a cool, dry pantry for around 2 years. No freezer needed, no electricity required. The whole grain version holds on to significantly more fiber than standard white pasta, which helps moderate your blood sugar response and provides longer-lasting energy per serving. The price difference between whole wheat and regular at most stores is barely noticeable. A well-prepared pantry isn't one crammed with fancy expensive items. It's the one that can put a hot, satisfying dinner on the table in under half an hour on the worst kind of day. Number 7. White rice, 2 eggs, a small can of beans. 4 hungry people staring at you expecting dinner. On their own, those ingredients don't really add up to much of anything. Put a pot of rice on the stove and suddenly every single one of those items becomes part of a complete filling plate for the whole table. That's the superpower of white rice. It doesn't grab headlines or win any trendy food awards. It quietly multiplies everything around it. A 20-pound bag yields somewhere around 300 individual servings, a few cents each. Almost nothing else in any grocery store comes close to that ratio of energy delivered per dollar spent. A small portion of stir-fried meat that might feed 1 or 2 people becomes dinner for 4 the instant it's spooned over rice with a vegetable on the side. It's the ultimate stretcher. And the storage life is extraordinary. When sealed properly in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers in a cool, dry environment, white rice maintains its quality for up to 30 years. For everyday purposes though, the goal is much simpler. Pair it with beans, veggies, or a modest amount of protein to build filling, complete plates that cost next to nothing. Number 6. Lentils. I'm adding lentils to this list because they deserve a spotlight. They cook faster than most dried beans, no overnight soaking required for most varieties, and they pack a serious nutritional punch. 1 cup of cooked lentils delivers about 18 grams of protein and 15 grams of fiber. They're also loaded with folate, iron, and potassium. A 1-pound bag costs a couple of dollars and expands into many generous servings. Toss them into soups, simmer them into a thick dal, mix them into salads, or blend them into burger patties. Lentils are one of those foods that feel hearty and substantial enough to anchor a meatless meal without anyone at the table feeling shortchanged. They've been a dietary staple across South Asian, Middle Eastern, and Mediterranean cuisines for thousands of years. And there's a very good reason for that. They're efficient, nutritious, and incredibly affordable. Number 5. Dry beans. Most shoppers walk straight past the dried bean section and grab canned beans instead, then toss extra meat into the cart to make the meal feel more substantial. Here's what they don't realize they just paid for. A can of beans is often close to half liquid and packaging by weight. When you buy dried beans, nearly every cent goes toward actual food. After an overnight soak and a few hours of gentle simmering, a single pound swells into multiple generous servings. Plenty for soups, stews, rice bowls, or a big batch of chili that feeds the family across several days. On a cost per gram of protein basis, dried beans are among the most efficient plant-based protein sources you'll find anywhere. They also deliver soluble fiber that supports healthy cholesterol levels and keeps you feeling satisfied far longer than most processed alternatives. Combined with rice, beans form what's called a complementary protein. Together, they cover all the essential amino acids your body needs. This pairing has been the nutritional foundation of entire civilizations for thousands of years. That's not a coincidence. It's practical wisdom that countless generations arrived at through experience, long before anyone invented a nutrition label. Stored in an airtight container in a cool, dry spot, dried beans keep for years without any real quality loss. When you buy a bag, you're essentially buying dozens of future meals for what a few servings of meat would cost.